part of it. Well, it doesn't matter.
I don't whistle. Becky whistles.
I can't whistle loud.
Hey, folks. We're gonna get started. It's 7 o'clock. I'm all for starting on time. Thank you. I'm Maggie Brenner. I'm the vice chair of the Butternut Valley Alliance. And for the last, oh gosh, it feels like a decade, but it's only been a year and a half, we've been working on applying for this New York Forward grant for the Village of Morris, and also sort of getting the groundwork laid to apply for one next year for the Village of Gilbertsville. Heather DeWitt, who is here from the Mohawk Valley Economic Development District, I got that out.
Yeah.
Have been working closely with us. They're sort of guiding the process, telling us kind of what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and giving us lots of amazing information. Heather's going to walk everybody tonight through what the New York Forward Grant Program is, what it's all about. Just a couple of pieces of business. We are recording this because we've had a lot of folks request, especially everybody on the school board who's at a different meeting tonight, that they get the information as well. We'll post it on our website. So the meeting is being recorded, and I'll monitor the chat room because we do have people who have phoned in on Zoom, and I will be taking questions from them. So if you ask a question from the audience, Heather will repeat it so that the folks on Zoom are sure to be able to hear it. And anything else?
We're not showing pictures.
Right, nobody here is on screen, okay? All right, Heather, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So thank you so much for coming to this meeting. New York Forward is actually a very progressive application for $1 million into a downtown grant. So what is New York Forward? It's an initiative that revitalizes smaller and more rural downtowns, and it really is focused on downtowns. It's very similar to the Downtown Revitalization Initiative that started, gosh, I want to say 15 years ago. Think of it as DRI Light. It's the same idea, but it's a smaller grant award. And the main focus is on villages, hamlets, and smaller scale neighborhoods. Morris is a perfect example of a community that could get New York Forward. Program goals. New York State always has program goals that goes along with any kind of grant that they put out. And this is really to create that vibrant, walkable downtown with a strong sense of place and the history and the character of Morris. It's designed to attract new businesses, more visitors, and even more residents, increase the tax base in Morris. And finally, it's also designed to help improve the quality of life and economic resiliency of the village. It gives residents that third space to gather. So if you think of home as your first space, work as your second space, this could be third space, whether it's the gatehouse or other businesses that open in the downtown. And the funding, and I always say this, funding begets funding. You know, the potential for other projects to start or places to reopen. If Morris were to be awarded this funding, more funding will follow. It's just the way of things. I'll give you a very good example. Richfield was awarded New York Forward 2 years ago, and they're getting a large-scale housing project moving into the area because they did get New York Forward.
Actually funded outside of New York Forward?
So the question was, is the housing funded outside of New York Forward? In Richfield Springs, yes. So they were awarded the $4.5 million for the projects that New York State was going to award, and then another developer came in outside of the award and said, "Hey, we want to build housing here." So in that case, yes. However, in the New York Forward application, housing can be a big component, and you can create housing or remodel housing with New York State funding, with New York Forward funding. So how does it work? The Village of Morris is going to apply through the Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development Council. I know we've got long names for everything. And from that application, our REDC, the Mohawk Valley REDC, it's a group of, 30 or 40 individuals, will nominate communities to move forward to the state. And then the selected community receive this $4.5 million for planning and implementation. I know that sounds really easy, but it is a heavy lift. And I just want to call out Maggie, who have done a tremendous job with that lift. They've really set the groundwork. They've set up a very good, very strong first draft of an application. And really my role in this is just refining it and putting it into New York State speak. That's it. Plan is, so if it is approved, and I always have to say if because no one ever knows, but it's a community-led planning process. They're gonna, New York State will come in, you'll have a New York State representative. Hopefully it will be Danny Lappin, who we love and adore. Everybody I think already knows him. And somebody from the REDC will also be a co-chair. A local planning committee is set up, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the community. It's members of the community. There's going to be a development of a strategic investment plan that's done by an engineering firm hired directly by New York State. The village does not pay anything for that. New York State pays for that out of New York State funding. And projects are then selected based on public input and transformative potential. There would be outreach events throughout the award designated for public feedback. Do you like this project? Do you approve of this project? Those kinds of things. Projects are then submitted to the LPC, the local planning committee, and are nominated by the local planning committee. And it's more of an in-depth thing. There's a lot of pieces that go into that application part, but if somebody wants to put their project forward to New York State, it's a short application process. It's presented to the LPC, and then the LPC says, yes, we like this project. We'd like to move it forward for state approval or for the state we're recommending it to the state. I do have to say that final decisions on all go forward projects are done at the state level. So the LPC has their group of projects that they say, yes, we're really into these. We really want to push these forward. They hand them off to New York State, and then New York State reviews what the LPC's thoughts are, what their input is, and then makes that final decision. And I do want to, after it's awarded, it is a long process. You know, the awards are usually announced in April or May, and then the LPC usually starts in June, and it's like a 4 or 5 month process. All LPC meetings are publicly held. Anybody can attend them, and you just listen to what is being said, and then afterwards there's time for public comment as well. So it truly is a community-based process. What gets funded? So building renovations and adaptive reuse. Think about 2023 when the Gatehouse came in and renovated the building. That would be adaptive reuse. Streetscapes improvements in public spaces, wider sidewalks, updating streetlights, placemaking signage along your main street or along the boundary area. Build business development and tourism infrastructure. Think about the Otsego County Fairgrounds and if a project could be done there. And cultural, historic, and wellness assets. Think about what the Historical Society has done and their plans for their expansion. All of those things could qualify for a New York Forward project. How the community can be involved. What you guys are doing right now. It's fantastic. And I love that there's so many people here. Attend public meetings and workshops. Share your opinion. Don't be afraid to voice your opinion. Don't be afraid to put up a project. Don't be afraid to talk. Share your ideas for projects and priorities. Don't be shy. If you have a project that you want included in with, if it gets funded and you have a project that you want funded, do it. And finally, help spread the word in the community. Talk about the application, talk about the process. It's $4.5 million being infused into Morris. I say could be. And that's really all I have. I'll take questions now. If you think of something down the line, you can reach out to my office, or you can email me directly, or you can reach out to Maggie, and either one of us can answer questions, but I'm ready to take questions. I love this application process, by the way. This is an exciting one. Yes.
Is the PowerPoint available on the website?
We can make it available for you.
When we post the Zoom recording, we will post the PowerPoint as well. It'll be on the BVA, Butternut Valley Alliance.org website.
Heather, can you explain the process? Let's say we get approved and someone wants to have a renovation done to their building.
Sure.
How exactly does the funding occur for that project?
Sure.
Repeat the question.
So the question is if Morris is awarded New York Forward, how does the application work and how does that funding process work? So LPC is formed, local planning committee is formed. The project owner, I'll call them, submits an application. And it includes things like, what is your project? How much is your project? What kind of skin in the game do you have? How much are you putting towards that? Goes to the LPC, and let's say LPC loves your project. They push it off to New York State. New York State loves your project and says, yep, we're going to fund this. So then the project owner works directly with a state agency. And it really depends on what the project is. It depends on which state agency you work with. You could work with Department of State, you could work with Homes and Community Renewal, or you could work with Empire State Development. There might be a couple other ones in there as well. But the project owner work directly with that state agency on the project. So whatever requirements are needed to push that project forward, the owner and the state agency would work together on that. One thing about New York State funding, everything is reimbursable. So if your project is awarded and you start that work, you have to complete the total project, submit for reimbursement, and then you get paid. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
Can you talk about the financial institutions who participate in doing like good rates and bridge financing and things like that?
Yeah, so the question is, I've been awarded a project, or I've been awarded money, and I don't have the upfront capital to actually start my project. So you can go to any bank. A lot of times banks will help. I don't know what rates are, but I'm sure if it is awarded, we could probably do outreach to SEFCU to see if they would do something.
They participate in New York. NBT has an investment fund for rural communities. We've been in touch with them. They said they would be interested in participating. And most places have talked about like interest-only loans, very favorable loans. Mm-hmm. So there are resources out there that are available to help the project owners do it in a reasonable way.
Yeah. My organization also has a gap financing for grant awardees. There are some limitations to it. It's up to...
Could you say it again?
Yeah. My organization has gap financing for grant awardees. So if you've been awarded a grant, you can access money through our organization. Ours does have some pieces to it. We can only do up to 100,000. We cannot offer an interest rate lower than 4%. So our loan fund, this one up to $100,000, interest only payments over the course of time. And then once you get reimbursed from New York State, you pay off the principal and you're done. I know I smoothed over a lot of it, but that's the gist of it. Yeah.
I know we have certain projects with stakeholders that have already done work. Mm-hmm. How does that play with this.
Yeah. So the question is, how has some of the work that's already been done within Morris play into this application? So it's actually a very good question. And one of the pieces to the application is what kind of investments have already been made. So when you talk about investments, we're talking the gatehouse has been included in there, what the Historical Society has already done, what Johnston and Stamer has, I'm sorry, Stamer has already done. Those have already been included to show that investment is already starting here, and to say, hey, New York State, we have investment starting. Give us a bit more money to keep it going and to help us out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But that prior work does not count as your skin in the game when you're putting your formal application into the LPC.
Correct. So if you are a business owner or within the boundary and you're putting in an application, any work that you've done before your project gets approved does not count towards the project. I know it's tough to hear. That would get funded. Right. Yeah. Yes.
Can we ask questions that are not related to Morris?
Yes.
I know for sure that my town is going to be building a new town hall. Would that be eligible for?
Yeah. So the question is, Gilbertsville? Town of Butternuts is building a new town hall. Would that qualify as a project? Possibly. There are other, so New York Forward is really for projects that can't be funded under other sources. So a town hall like that, there's a program called New York Bricks that I believe it's going to have 2 application processes next year. That would be something that would better align with what you need or what you're looking for.
And one of the things that has been absolutely wonderful about working with Mohawk Valley Economic Development is every time we have had a conversation with these folks, if this grant doesn't cover what we've been talking about, they know 4 other grants who do. I mean, these guys are just an amazing wealth of resources for anything that the community wants to accomplish. And we're very happy to be in partnership with them because they've had a whole lot of knowledge and experience in all of this.
Thank you.
So if some part that we ask for a grant with extends beyond, it's a service that could extend beyond the Butternut Valley, how do you guys react to that?
So the question is if there's a project around the Butternuts Valley, how does that work into the New York Forward? So the short answer is it doesn't. Because New York Forward, all projects have to be within a specific boundary that's set, and it's going to be a downtown area. So I'm making this up. Let's say your boundary is from the firehouse down to the corner. Any project within that boundary can get included in New York State. I will put a caveat to that. If this is awarded, the LPC has the opportunity to change the boundary. So I'll give you a very good example. In Richfield, they put in one boundary and then they ended up having a very strong application just outside of the boundary, probably, I don't know, not even a quarter mile. It was really close. So the LPC decided to extend that boundary to be able to include that property so it could apply for funding. But also, to answer your question, outside of New York Forward, there's other funding streams. If you're looking specifically, and it really depends on what the project is. So if you're looking in the town of Butternuts, like I talked about the town hall, there's New York Bricks. If you had, I don't know, a swimming pool or something, a swimming pool that you wanted to update, there's a New York Swims application. And it really depends on the project. One of the things that Maggie talked about is my team and I can come in to the community and we do what's called a community visit. And this is what we did with Maggie. We did it 2 times, 3 times, a couple different times. Yeah, where my team comes in and we walk the community with you, listen to what kinds of projects you're thinking about, whether they're need to have, want to have, wish to have, and we try to connect funding for it. We give you as much information as we have, and then once we're done, Amanda from my office compiles what's called a community visit report. It's an incredibly comprehensive report on everything that we reviewed with links on projects and dates as best we can. And that's really what Maggie and Morris used to almost to lay the foundation and the groundwork for this application.
And when you finish reading the one on Morris, you think, man, I'd like to live there. This is the coolest village, and look at these, it was really beautifully written.
And I will say, the one that we did in Gilbertsville, it was my team. We also invited the county planning office. We had 2 individuals from Otsego County Planning show up, and Danny from Department of State showed up. And one of the things that Gilbertsville was talking about was like, we really don't know where all our fire hydrants are, I think. It was something water related. And Trevor from Oneida County Planning is like, oh, I've got that information. So it was a nice little connection.
Amanda is fantastic, by the way. We worked with her. I'm on the board of the Art Center.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
Who was the person who knew about the water connections?
That was Trevor Fuller.
Maybe he knows that one.
He's a planner with Oneida County Planning Department. I'm sorry, Otsego. What did I say, Oneida? Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, Otsego.
That's in the Mohawk Valley, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Are we the farthest reach of your?
No, actually,
Okay.
you're close. Oneonta is a little bit further.
That's true.
Jefferson,
You go to Jefferson.
yeah, and we go up north in Herkimer County, so Boonville and that area. But yeah.
I have a question. So I mentioned that I'm on the board of the Art Center. So we had historic preservation, a architecture firm come in, and we got a grant for that, and they came in and did a walkthrough of our building and a historic report on our building, and worked out some plans for us for the building. And I just want to say that there is a huge amount of work that needs to be done, electrical wiring. It's an old building, so electrical wiring, flooring, plumbing, everything. So what if, our building, and we put together a project for our building, and we submit it to the local planning committee, and maybe we need $1 million for our building. Who determines how much we could get of that money, like one specific project?
Yeah. So the question is who ultimately decides which projects are awarded and how much money each project gets? It falls to New York State. The LPC gives their recommendations, like these are the projects that we feel strongly about. These are the projects that we want to push forward. This is our number 1, our number 2, our number 3, and then New York State ultimately decides. And they can, sometimes they'll fund it exactly as is. You're asking for $1 million. Here you go, here's $1 million. Sometimes they'll fund portions of it. Again, I'll use Richfield as an example, and I don't know their dollar amounts, but they asked for a certain dollar amount for their park. They were awarded for the park, but it was at a lesser amount. So New York State is the ultimate decider.
Okay.
I was wondering how secure is the financing? I was thinking at the federal level, all these grants were awarded, and now somebody is saying, oops,
We're no longer
we're no longer funding these grants.
Yeah.
Is that something that could happen in New York State, or is it? Because I'd hate to see someone basically fork out $1 million and the state say, ooh, we're out of money and we're not going to finance it.
Yeah. So the question is the financial piece with the federal government pulling back on a lot of approved funding. So as far as I know, the state has not pulled back on any funding. New York Forward, there are some popular programs. New York Forward, DRI are top 2 popular programs. And while we never know what's going to happen in the future, I have yet to see New York State pull back money or not fund an approved project. Sometimes it can happen if New York State likes to have projects completed within 2 to 3 years. So if you haven't started your project and you're 2 years out, they might pull back the funding, but they're not going to pull back funding on a project that starts. One of the main reasons is you have to, if you get awarded, there's some steps that have to happen before you can start the project. And New York State, the department that you're working with, the agency that you're working with, will give you the go-ahead to start the project. Like, yes, we've gotten everything that we need from you, whatever that is, you can go ahead and start your project. And if they're saying that, then they're gonna fund you. Yes?
We have a piece of property that is a salvage junkyard.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to get rid of that, because of the possible brownfield underneath that,
Mm-hmm.
since it's been a foundry and a manufacturing place since 1917,
Mm-hmm.
that probably wouldn't come into this at all, or would that be like an EPA or something like that, come in there and do that?
So the question is specifically about a junkyard and the foundry that used to be there. And I'll say this, it depends on the project. So it depends on a couple things. One, is it inside the boundary?
Okay.
And two, what is the project? If you're looking to do remediation on it and brownfield cleanup, that there's other funding for that. It would probably fall under other funding. When you're talking about a brownfield, there's other things that you have to consider. Who the owner of the property is, how the owner became owner of the property, if they did what's called a phase one before they took ownership of the property. So there's brownfields, while not difficult, add a layer of complexity. And it would depend on the project. If it's a cleanup and a remediation of the building to reuse the building, that does qualify. If it's just remediation to clean up the property, that would fall under another funding stream.
Yeah, there's no building
Left.
involved.
Yeah.
Then, oh, is that the one down?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
But so-
a big part of the forest district.
But I think, what Heather's saying is if somebody had a great idea about how to reuse that property, let's say the fairgrounds needed to expand its parking or wanted to make.
No, not parking.
Not parking, you're right. Let's say the fairgrounds wanted to move its entrance there or something, or somebody wanted to put an adjunct, but put a business open to the public, the community, something that would really help drive more business to that end of town. And the brownfield remediation had to be done in order to open that business, that whole project could be considered.
Yeah.
But if you just want to get Gary to clean up his brownfield, that's other funding.
What I'm looking at is we're desperate for parking space on the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Then you could put a couple hundred cars in there.
Unfortunately, the New York Furry Grant does not cover parking.
It's not for parking.
But if you cover the parking as part of your overall project, that does count as your investment in the project.
Exactly what she said.
I have learned so much in the last year.
But also to answer your question, if you want to talk brownfields, we can talk separately. There is funding available. If Gary owns the property, Gary would have to be the applicant. And if Gary did not do a phase one, then there's a lot of funding that he's not going to qualify for.
I'm gonna plant this little seed with our fair president.
Mhm.
And he maybe put that into the mix.
And we have been talking to Dwayne, that is one of the projects that was part of, not the brownfield, but the fair is involved in this process. They were one of the projects that was put forth for the initial application. Not that all of those, it gets complicated.
It does get
We've worked
complicated.
with 11 different project sponsors to come up with the application, the proposals in the application. So there are 11 people in the village who have said, I want to do something to my business to make the village better. Just because they were part of this application doesn't mean their project will be automatically approved once the LPC is formed. So I've been saying it's more like a sales pitch. Like we've been showing how much interest there is in the community. So the fair was one of them. And then they'll all have to go through a more rigorous process when the grant is actually awarded.
Yeah.
So,
I will say, if the fair does decide to purchase the property, that property that you're talking about, please, before you sign on the dotted line, make sure a phase 1 is done. It's a environmental assessment survey, and it's called a phase 1. That opens up funding for it. But also, I love brownfields.
my son-in-law can then come and be the project manager for it, because that's what he does.
What is the boundary? I mean, is that kind of set now?
It pretty much is set. It basically goes from the triangle.
The question is, what is the boundary?
It basically goes from the point of the triangle at the school, kind of on a diagonal behind the gatehouse, so that we're, including that little, up a little bit on 13, down to the fairgrounds, because the grandstand is one of the initial proposals, and then sort of a diagonal back across Broad Street and back up. Back up to here.
And Lake Street is included.
It
in
includes
Mechanic
Lake Street and Mechanic, right? Good job, Heather. So it's really kind of like from the fairground grandstand to the school. It doesn't include Meadow Lane. It doesn't include. It's the business district, so it doesn't include. It includes the Morabito because it comes around behind it. Can you all visualize that? Is that making sense? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have time to put the map together yet. Yeah, so if there's a project in there, we can include it in the application. And as Maggie said, the application just shows New York State that, one, there's interest, and two, Morris can spend $4.5 million.
Or more.
Or more.
Maggie, are you at liberty to tell us who those 11?
Sure, the 11 projects, wow, this is a test, okay. Johnston and Stanimer, the Historical Society, the museum, the Butternut Valley Arts and Crafts Center, the Gatehouse, 127 Main Street, which is the post office, putting some mixed-use housing above that.
The block.
What?
The block.
The block, which are the stone apartments with the little white building beside it. And then there's a streetscaping project. There's a small project fund, and that's a nice thing. It's a pool of money that individuals within the boundary can apply for small business improvements, to like meet with the historical look of the village. Somebody needs their facade redone, hasn't been able to afford it, they can apply for that small business.
The fairgrounds.
There's the fairgrounds, and there is the virtual tour.
The library.
And the library. There's my 11. Thank you, Bob. Yeah.
So something like Grove Street, we have a lot of foot traffic from the kids going to school back and forth, and the teachers. And there's not a sidewalk anywhere to be found. And,
The sidewalks per se, like the installation of sidewalks per se, is not covered, but as part of the streetscaping, like we've already, Department of Transportation has an approved project to reconfigure our downtown intersection. And in conversations with them on that, we're learning like where our rules are for what we can do to, now Village would be responsible for sidewalks on Grove Street. But as part of this project, and when we're talking about the streetscaping and the beautification, widening the sidewalks, putting in new street lamps, putting in period appropriate signage, putting in benches. Even if we put in different trash cans, we have to work with DOT on making sure we're following their rules, but we've actually started those conversations as well, so.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question on that. So like in front of the Historical Society, we have black tar, it's tar. So would we be able to actually put a sidewalk in there?
I don't, well, I
don't know.
probably not as part of this fund, but again, there's a lot of DOT. Like if we go to DOT and say we really need this, that could be part of a DOT project. I mean, what I've learned from this experience is there's a whole lot of support and help and money out there if you know people like Heather who can point you to it. So really, I think our job as a community is, what do we want this community to look like? What do we want to do? And then people like Heather will help us find the money to do it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's what we're doing.
Does the fact that there's no zoning, is that?
Doesn't matter. The one good piece is a community has to be what's called pro-housing community certified in order to apply. The village has gone through their certification and they have been certified. Pro-housing communities certification is, it's an I promise to, we're gonna do our best to create housing. You know, the proof in order to get pro-housing communities, you either had to prove that you had a 1% increase in housing over the past 3 years, and that was really based on permits and things like that. If you don't have that, then there's still another process that's like, you know what, we didn't have that much housing growth, but we're going to try our best to do it in the future.
It's like you say we're not going to stand in the way. Right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to redline, and we're not going to all that.
Yeah. And the other thing is New York State has yet to come back and say, you said you were going to do this and you didn't. They have that doesn't happen with pro-housing communities. It's the village or the community saying, we're going to do our best.
Now, it is beneficial to have an updated, what's it called, comprehensive plan. And my understanding is the village has actually started the process of updating ours. Ours is from like 1982 or something like
That's
that.
not bad.
87.
That's not bad.
That's not bad, I know. So they're kind of getting the ball rolling on getting that updated. So like a lot of things are happening from that standpoint in bringing us up to where we ought to be. Yeah. Anything else? Well, so as I said,
just to reiterate, you said we should find out if Morris is going to be getting this grant. April or May.
Yeah. So the question is what's the application timeline? So Maggie and I are in the process of finishing up the application. It's just a matter of getting that. And Maggie, the mayor, and maybe a couple other people have to present to the Mohawk Valley REDC. It's a 15-minute presentation with questions and things like that. It's a private session, so it's just the community and the REDC. They're the only ones in the room, and you're assigned a time. And then REDC, behind closed doors, makes their decisions which communities they're going to push forward to New York State. New York State says, yes, this is what it is, and then there'll be an announcement March, April, sometime in there. It really depends on, where the governor is traveling or where the Secretary of State is traveling and when they can fit it in. And then after that, then everything moves forward with the LPC.
Can you explain the
REDC?
structure within the state so people can, there's a New York Forward grant available to 2 villages in each of those 7.
District.
Yeah, 10. So the question is, can you talk a little bit about the REDC regions? So REDC just stands for Regional Economic Development Council. Cuomo started this, I want to say in 2010 is when they started this. And it's Empire State Development is the lead agency with it. That's where the REDC works from. And the REDC is a group of business people. So some of the people on there are Carrie Puleos, who works for the Utica Chamber of Commerce. Carolyn Lewis, who works for Bassett Health out in Cooperstown. Steve DeMio, who is the former CEO of Mohawk Valley Edge, was on it. They have small business owners. I'm drawing a blank on some of the people that are. John Cusick from the Herkimer County IDA. They have a smattering of people across, and they're involved within the community, and they're the ones that make the final decision.
And how many regions?
There are 10 regions across New York State. We're in the Mohawk Valley region, and it covers the 6 counties, which are Otsego, Fulton, Montgomery, Herkimer, Oneida, Otsego, and Schoharie. There's a Capital District, there's a North Country, there's a Hudson Valley, Western New York, but there's 10 of them. New York City has one, and Long Island has one. And what Tom is talking about is there's 3 awards that they give out for this. One is a DRI, it's $10 million, and then they issue 2 New York Forward, $4.5 million.
Within each region.
Within each region. So yes, there is competition, but you're only competing against those that are applying within the Mohawk Valley. And if you're applying for New York Forward only, you're only going up against those that are applying for New York Forward. If you're applying for DRI, you're only going up against those that are also applying for DRI. If you're applying for both, then you're going up against everybody.
And time is of the essence because, like our neighboring community, they built a new highway garage. And from the time they started talking about it, the price doubled.
Yeah.
Absolutely doubled.
Yep.
And I'm sure that we're talking about $4 million, they're not gonna give you 8.
No. But I will say, one of the other things that does come out of the LPC is other funding streams. And a lot of times, so during the LPC meetings, other agencies are invited in. So Homes and Community Renewal came to the Richfield Springs one, and they talked about other funding that they had available through theirs. There, like Maggie said, there is funding out there. You just have to match your project to it, and you have to have the timing right on it, when it's opening and what your timeline on your project is. But there's a ton of different funding out there.
So keep an eye, Butternut Valley Alliance, we're going to have we're migrating our website, but within the next couple of weeks, there will be a tab at the top of our homepage for BVForward. Keep an eye on that. We'll have this presentation there. We'll have the PowerPoint as well as recording. We'll have some basic information about the projects that were part of the application. Now, just remember, those are just part of the application. They're not approved projects. We have that whole other process to go through. But it'll give you an idea of the types of things people are thinking about. And then there's an email address on there, which is the same as that one there. If you have any ideas, if you have any questions, everybody who knows me knows that I pretty much answer any email within about 24 hours, if not like instantaneously. And I do have a life outside my email, but
Not over this weekend, though.
And yeah, I know. I'm sending my computer in for like servicing, and for 5 days I will not be on email. I don't know what I'm going to do. But so anyhow, keep an eye on that website, and we'll have updates and information there. We want your feedback there. Talk about this grant to anybody in the community. We really want the community members' ideas about what do we want? What do we want Morris to look like and to be moving forward?
And before we end, I do want to talk about some other funding that my organization has actually gotten for you guys. So we've gotten 2. One is USDA. It's for broadband. And it's really mapping out unserved and underserved areas, which mean I have no internet, or I have internet and it's not fast enough.
Know anything about that.
You wouldn't know anything. You guys have it all. But we also applied for funding through Connect All, and it's a cellular service. We were awarded just under $1 million, and what we're going to be doing is the 911 towers that are going up and already up in the Butternuts Valley. We're going to be adding on, I don't even know what they are, I don't know the technical term, but we're adding on this little device that's actually going to give 529 residents and homes in the area access to cellular service. And I'm not talking about, I only have one bar. I'm talking about true cellular service. So, that's one of the things that we talked about in the application, and it just shows that it's a community effort, and it's not, and it does truly take a village to lift up a village, and that there is other funding that is coming. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming out on one of our first cool, brisk fall nights. Yes, and don't hesitate to ask or flag us in the street, or just, the website also will include all of the other team members who have been part of this project process.
Yep.
And so, tackle any of them on the street too, and give them your ideas as well.
I do also have cards if anybody wants one.
I'll take another one.
You grab it for it.
I'll take one.
You see, there's a team, created for. I asked my question, now, just, I'm thinking of you, I've already done all this work.
Before I ended the meeting, I thought it was.
She's sleeping.